Hey there, Dart nerds, double mechanics, and tungsten tacticians. Welcome back to DartBrain, the podcast where you might be in the right mental movie theater, but your inner gremlins are still throwing popcorn at your guardians from the cheap seats. This is episode 6, and if you've been following along, congratulations. You now officially know more about sports psychology than 95% of Dart players. And the other 5%, their name's Shane and don't have the mental capacity for sports psychology. It's hard to believe we're already at episode 6 of the DartBrain. Perhaps more surprising is that you've actually listened to my voice for this long. Since this is the final part of the DartBrain model, I want to pose a question to everyone that's made it this far. Which gremlin are you most challenged by? Throw your responses on the DartBrain Facebook page. I'll post a graphic with the exact question. Getting your responses will help me know where to focus upcoming episodes. Now, if you're tuning in for the first time, don't worry. DartBrain is the mental sidekick you didn't know your game needed. A model that helps you understand your dart-throwing mind using a combination of psychological science, chimpanzee behavior, imaginary gremlins, and an overwhelming desire not to miss the double 16. It's like a self-help book for your hockey game. Last time, in episode 5, we introduced you to the concept of gremlins and guardians, the dueling forces inside your brain that either support your focus or sabotage it completely. Each gremlin represents a psychological obstacle, each guardian a performance-boosting asset. And when your guardians outpower your gremlins, something magical happens. You find the zone. We covered 5 of those psychological matchups last episode, including the heavyweight title fight between self-doubt and confidence. But now, it's time for part 2. In this episode, we're tackling the next 5 gremlin guardian pairings that mess with your mental game, often in subtle ways. These are the mood killers, the momentum drainers, the sneaky saboteurs that sneak up behind your focus and yell, boo! Let's take a look at what's on the board today. Neglect versus commitment. You say you want to play better, but when was the last time you practiced? No, actually practiced, not just threw a few. This pairing dives into the gremlin that convinces you to put it off till tomorrow and the guardian that shows up whether you feel like it or not. Adversity versus resilience. You missed a double. Now what? Adversity is inevitable. The question is whether it breaks you or builds you. We'll talk about how to train your guardian of resilience so you bounce back and not break. Distractions versus distraction controls. Someone's talking behind you. The board is crooked. Your opponent's phone buzzed for the 7th time. This one's about environmental and mental chaos and how to build routines and mental cues that help you lock in anyway. Stress versus enjoyment. Tension, pressure, that feeling in your chest when the score is 2-2 in a best of 5. This gremlin turns fun into fear, but there's a guardian on the other side of it. A reminder of why you play in the first place. Enjoyment. Fatigue versus energy. Whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, fatigue is a quiet killer. And sometimes the guardian here isn't more sleep. It's a change in mindset, a deep breath, a hit of joy that recharges you mid-match. These 5 pairings are some of the most common reasons players fall apart mid-leg, and the most trainable areas of the mental game. You don't have to be a monk or a Navy SEAL to strengthen your guardians, but you do have to be honest about which gremlins are showing up in your game most often. And just like last time, we're floating the idea of a DartBrain workbook, so you have a place to record your mental training. If you'd like to see something like that, hit us up on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's jump into part 2 of the Gremlin Guardian series. It's time to confront the chaos and build your mental army. Pairing number 6, neglect versus commitment. You can't miss doubles in practice if you never practice at all. Let's be honest, we all say we want to get better. But when it comes to putting in the reps, especially on the boring stuff like double 1 or midweek warm-ups, there's a gremlin in the way. Welcome to neglect versus commitment. This isn't the most dramatic battle in your DartBrain, but it's certainly one of the most important because all your other guardians rely on this one showing up. Neglect doesn't yell. It doesn't panic. It's not emotionally intense like stress or self-doubt. It's quiet, subtle. It slips in with thoughts like, you'll practice tomorrow. You're probably good enough already. It's just league night. Doesn't really matter. Neglect doesn't sabotage you with fear, it sabotages you with comfort. It makes excuses sound reasonable. It lets short-term mood override long-term goals. And if you let it stay long enough, it rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who trains and start seeing yourself as someone who used to be pretty good. Neglect is a slow leak in your competitive tires. You don't always notice it until something important falls flat. Now, here's your guardian, commitment. Not the dramatic, shout it from the rooftops kind. We're talking about the quiet consistency that shows up when nobody's watching. Commitment is putting in reps, even when you're tired, scheduling practice like it's a match, sticking to a routine when the results don't show up right away, and trusting your process even when a match is going poorly. Commitment isn't about hype, it's about identity. You become a more focused, resilient, confident, and energy-managed player because you're someone who shows up, repeatedly, especially when it's hard. The other Guardians ride shotgun with commitment. Without it, your entire mental game becomes like an ex-girlfriend, full of mood swings and completely unpredictable. This pairing is grounded in deliberate practice theory, which tells us that improvement comes not from experience alone, but from structured, intentional effort over time. Deliberate practice is focused on specific weaknesses, guided by clear goals, measured with feedback, and repeated consistently. Let me go through that again, because this is crucially important when it comes to your practice, so that you are trying to achieve something specific and not just winging darts at the board without intention. Deliberate practice is focused on specific weaknesses, guided by clear goals, measured with feedback, and repeated consistently. Commitment is what makes this possible. It creates the habits and systems that turn hope into progress. Psychologically, it also builds self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to improve. The more consistent you train, the more confident you become in your preparation. That confidence spills into your performance. This pairing can be sneaky because neglect often hides behind being busy or just taking a break. But here's how to tell who's in charge. Your neglect gremlin might be running the show if you skip practice more than you keep it, you stop tracking your progress or forget what you're working on, you only play matches but rarely train specifics, or you start avoiding parts of your game that need work. Your commitment gremlin is alive and well if you have a regular scheduled training routine, you stick to your goals even when motivation dips, you work on weak spots, not just what feels good, and you measure improvement in your process, not just your results. Commitment isn't built on willpower alone. It's built on structure, clarity, and small wins. Here are 5 tools to help you make practice part of who you are, not just something you hope to get around to. 1. Schedule it like a match. If it's not in your calendar, it's just a wish. Set actual times for practice and treat them like match appointments. Show up on time, warm up, and play with purpose. You don't need a 5-hour practice session. Even 20 to 30 focused minutes done consistently beats the all-or-nothing approach that neglect loves. And yes, some days you'll want to cancel. But when you train commitment, you show up anyway. Not because you feel like it, but because that's who you are. 2. Set process goals, not just outcome goals. Win more is not a practice plan. Instead, set process goals. Hit 50 double 16s before I leave the board. Track my first 9 darts for every leg. Complete my pre-shot routine on every throw. These goals focus on what you control, not just what you hope happens. That keeps motivation internal and your progress measurable. Over time, these little benchmarks become habits, and habits outlast motivation every time. 3. Work on what you avoid. Neglect loves comfort zones. It whispers, just throw some 20s, even though you know double 5 is the real problem. So once a week, deliberately train the thing you least want to do. Weak finishes, awkward setups, tense closes, whatever it is, face it on purpose. When you commit to training your weak spots, your gremlins shrink. You stop avoiding your fears and start turning them into strengths. 4. Track what you do, not just what you feel. Memory is slippery. Some days you'll feel like you've made no progress, but the numbers tell a different story. Use a simple journal or spreadsheet. Log what you practiced, how long you trained, what felt good, and what didn't. It's not about perfection, it's about proof. Tracking reminds you, I'm not stagnant, I'm showing up. And when you see your streaks and milestones in black and white, commitment gets easier to trust. 5. Make practice social or accountable. Neglect thrives in isolation. Commitment thrives with connection. Find a practice buddy. Join a training group. Post your goals online. Or just tell a teammate what you're working on. That small layer of accountability can push you through the days when your motivation dips. Even something simple like Monday night checkout practice with Dave gives your routine structure, and showing up for someone else often helps you show up for yourself. Neglect doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it just looks like drifting. But over time, that drift adds up. Doubles go cold, focus gets fuzzy, confidence drops, and your gremlins start throwing a party. I ran into this myself recently. One of my favorite warm-up routines is working checkouts from 41 to 60. Single first, then tops to finish. For some reason, I stopped doing it. Didn't plan to, I didn't mean to. It just quietly fell off. And the worst part? I didn't notice because I wasn't tracking my practice. And surprise, surprise, my double 20 hasn't been nearly as crispy in matches lately. Tracking doesn't need to be complicated. A basic notebook, a few quick notes is more than enough. But it gives you clarity, keeps your routines honest, and builds confidence because you're not guessing, you're seeing the work. Commitment doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees progress. And progress, no matter how small, is what keeps your DartBrain sharp and your guardian strong. So ask yourself, are you planning to improve? Or are you committed to do it? Put it in your calendar, grab your darts, and let your gremlins know you show up, even if it's just for 20 minutes. Pairing 7, adversity versus resilience. What you do after the bounce out is what really counts. In darts, as in life, things go sideways. You bust 60 on your first dart, you miss 9 match darts in a row, your opponent checks 120 after you miss the big fish. Welcome to adversity, the gut punch moments, the emotional whiplash, the moments that test not just your skill, but your identity as a competitor. And how you handle them, that's what this Gremlin Guardian pair is all about, adversity versus resilience. Now, let's be clear. Adversity itself isn't the gremlin. It's not inherently bad to face a setback. The gremlin shows up with how you respond to it. It whispers, it's over. You blew it. This always happens. It frames every mistake as permanent. It takes a bad leg and turns it into a bad match. It turns pressure into paralysis and setbacks into identity statements. I'm just not good under pressure. I always collapse in close games. This gremlin thrives when you take one moment of failure and let it define everything that comes after. It wants you to believe that adversity is the end of the story instead of just a messy middle. Resilience is the voice that says, nope, this isn't over. There's still time. You can't make a comeback if you never get behind. It doesn't erase the setback. It just refuses to be trapped by it. Resilience is your ability to adapt, bounce back, and reset. It's not emotional numbness, it's emotional stability. Resilience isn't about ignoring adversity, it's about absorbing it and continuing anyway. It's recovering quickly, refocusing efficiently, and re-engaging with purpose. It's not move on and pretend it didn't happen, it's, yeah, that sucks, but I'm still here. And here's the secret. Resilience isn't a trait, it's a trainable skill. It's not something you either have or don't, it's something you build through how you think, train, and talk to yourself under pressure. Resilience has become one of the most studied concepts in performance psychology, and for good reason. According to researchers, elite performers don't avoid adversity, they reframe it. They interpret setbacks as challenges, not threats. And that difference in interpretation directly affects how they perform under pressure. But why is that? Because the brain's interpretation of adversity changes the chemical response in your body. When you perceive a threat, your cortisol spikes. But when you perceive a challenge, you release dopamine. Let's get into this because it's such a simple but powerful example of how reframing can completely alter your performance. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone. It's released when your brain perceives a threat, physical or psychological. In the short term, it sharpens your senses and redirects energy towards survival. But when it spikes too often or too long, like in high-pressure matches or after repeated setbacks, it can narrow your focus too much, increase muscle tension, impair working memory, trigger your fight, flight, or freeze response, and erode confidence over time. That's when your gremlins tend to show up. Dopamine, on the other hand, is the motivation and reward neurotransmitter. It's not about pleasure itself, it's about anticipating reward and pursuing goals. It helps you feel motivated to act, stay locked into tasks, sustain effort through challenge, and associate challenge with reward. It's not just about feeling good, it's about staying engaged. In the DartBrain world, dopamine supports your resilience, commitment, and even enjoyment guardians. It helps frame adversity as a challenge to be solved rather than a threat to be feared. That's why reframing setbacks can shift your chemistry, literally changing your brain's response from cortisol-drenched threat to dopamine-fueled opportunity. So resilience isn't about being emotionally tougher than everyone else. It's about changing the narrative you tell yourself about the setback. So how do you know if adversity is flattening your game or if resilience is helping you stay upright? Here's how to spot the signs. Your adversity gremlin might be active if you dwell on missed shots long after the leg ends, you emotionally drop out of matches after falling behind, one mistake snowballs into multiple, or you lose confidence after a small setback. Your resilience guardian is showing up if you reset quickly after misses or poor visits, you stay emotionally present even when losing, you maintain tactical focus under pressure, and you treat every leg like a fresh opportunity. You can't avoid adversity, but you can absolutely train how you respond to it. Here are 5 strategies to help your resilience guardian come online when you need it most. 1. Reframe setbacks immediately. The first story you tell yourself after a mistake becomes the script, so tell a better story. Instead of, that was awful, try, that wasn't ideal, but it's done. One leg doesn't define the match. Next opportunity, I'll hit the next double. This isn't denial, it's direction. You're not pretending the mistake didn't happen. You're choosing to interpret it in a way that keeps you engaged. Practice this even during training. Every time you mess up, say something neutral or constructive out loud. You're rewiring your reflexes. 2. Create a post-miss reset routine. Build a short, deliberate sequence you use after mistakes. Something like step back, exhale, refocus on the next target, cue word, return to the Aki. This builds a rhythm into your resilience. It gives your body something to do instead of freezing or spiraling. The goal isn't to erase emotion, it's to give your mind and body a quick path back to the present. 3. Practice pressure simulation games. Set up situations where adversity is guaranteed. For example, start each leg down 100 points. Simulate important matches with must-hit situations, or practice short-format matches where every leg matters. This trains your mind to face discomfort on purpose. The more familiar you become with adversity in practice, the less it rattles you in competition. Resilience isn't built when things are easy. It's built when you learn to stay engaged even when things feel hard. 4. Use what did I learn prompts. After every match, win or lose, ask yourself, what did I learn? Where did I recover well? Where did I let adversity take over? This turns reflection into growth. It also helps normalize adversity. When setbacks become data instead of drama, your resilience guardian strengthens. Over time, this becomes an instinct. You stop fearing mistakes and start mining them for information. And 5, visualize recovering from mistakes. Most people use imagery to picture success, and that's great. But also practice visualizing recovery. See yourself missing a double, then calmly resetting, breathing, and hitting the next shot. This programs your brain for a more adaptive response. You're not just training to win, you're training to stay present when you don't. Because champions don't just hit more shots, they stay in more moments. Adversity is inevitable. What matters is how quickly you get back up. Your gremlin wants you to spiral. Your guardian wants you to respond. And every time you choose to reset instead of react, you're building a more resilient DartBrain, one that's harder to rattle and faster to recover. So the next time your momentum breaks, ask yourself, am I writing the ending or just reacting to the middle? Breathe, reset, and throw. Pairing 8, distractions versus distraction control. If you don't choose your focus will choose something stupid. Ever find yourself at the Aki thinking about the match next to you? Or whether you locked your car? Or mid-throw wondering what's for dinner? That's not a lack of talent, that's a distraction leak. And in a game where millimeters matter, those leaks cost legs. Let's meet our 8th Gremlin Guardian pair, distractions versus controls. This is about the quality of your attention, how to manage it, how you lose it, and how to stop giving it away to every shiny object or rogue thought that pops up between throws. Distractions are the sugar gremlins of your DartBrain, short-term, hyperactive, and always hungry for your attention. They come in many forms, such as external noise, like loud players or bad music, opponent behaviors, like a slow pace or odd rituals, and internal chatter, like worrying about your last miss, obsessing over the score, or daydreaming mid-leg. Distractions don't just pull your mind away from the board, they fracture your rhythm. They break the smooth, automatic process of your throw and replace it with static, doubt, or total nonsense. And the worst part? You usually don't realize it until your dart's already in the board, and it's nowhere near where you aimed. Now, meet the antidote. Controls. Controls are the systems, routines, and focus cues that anchor your attention. They don't eliminate distractions, but they give your brain something better to latch onto. Controls include pre-shot routines, breath timing, visual focus points, cue words or phrases, and body positioning and tempo resets. Controls are intentional habits that train your brain where to look, what to feel, and when to engage. They give you something to do, and in doing so, they leave less space for your mind to wander off to how weird Shane's throw is. When your control guardian is active, you can stay locked in even when chaos is happening around you. You become your own environment, and that's when you start throwing like a player who's actually present. I'm actually glad I didn't include distractions in the first Gremlins Guardians episode because last week I've received a perfect reminder of how sneaky and destructive they can be. Sean Narain and I were playing a Calgary Singles League match last Wednesday, and I started out great. First leg, 15 darts, 131 checkout, 51 tops, crisp, clean, focused. Then, sometime during the second leg, I noticed something I should have picked up earlier. The overhead light directly above the Aki was flickering. Not just a soft flicker, we're talking like seizure mode, bug zapper in a horror film flickering. Every time I stepped up to throw, I saw those little after-image dots in my vision that you get when you stare at the sun. Worse, I could see the flickering on my hand as I raised my dart. A textbook external distraction. Now, usually, I'm pretty good about brushing these things off. I've even got a distraction control plan for bad board lighting. But this, a flashing strobe light in my peripheral vision? No plan, no protocol, just pure gremlin. At first, I tried to just play through it, which sometimes works for certain distractions. But this time, it didn't. The longer I ignored it, the more it pulled at my attention. By the end of the leg, which I played like someone who had never held a dart before, I finally clued in. The light was low enough that I could grab a chair and remove the bulb. Done. Distraction solved, right? Wrong. Because I didn't reset. I didn't recenter. I didn't reestablish my throw rhythm or mental routine, and that opened the door for an internal distraction. My brain started scripting this exact story for this podcast. That's right, I was mentally drafting this anecdote while still playing. 2 more sloppy legs slipped by while I daydreamed about phrasing and metaphors. Meanwhile, Sean's still scoring, still focused, still present. He also noticed the light because he thanked me when I pulled up a chair to remove it, but he didn't let it affect his play. He didn't let his play slip. It wasn't until the 5th leg, we play 20, that I snapped out of it, shook off the fog, regrounded my focus, and started playing again like myself. Moral of the story? Distractions, both internal and external, are dangerous when you don't catch them early. That one stupid light bulb could have cost me that match. If this had been a best of 5, I was toast. So whether it's a flickering light, a noisy crowd, or your own wandering brain planning content mid-match, distractions win when you let them linger. The faster you catch them, the faster you can shut down the gremlin and bring your control guardian back online. This gremlin guardian duo is tied directly to attentional control theory, which suggests that anxiety impairs attention regulation, or in layman's terms, stress causes you to lose focus, unless you have a system in place to redirect it. Basically, when you're under pressure, your mind wants to scan for threats. That's your chimp brain at work. Controls help you override that instinct. They let your professor brain take the wheel and steer your focus towards task-relevant cues. Pre-performance routines have also been shown in multiple studies to improve consistency, reduce errors, and increase perceived control. Translation: if you always prep the same way, you're less likely to panic when the noise ramps up. By now you might be wondering, okay, I get it. Distractions are bad, controls are good, but how do I recognize whether my focus is under control or currently chasing butterflies? This is where self-awareness becomes a superpower. Let's look at some of the signs that can help you figure out whether your guardian is in charge or whether your gremlin has hijacked your attention. You might be wrestling with your distraction gremlin if you notice your opponent's every movement, you miss a throw and realize you were thinking about something unrelated, you rush or freeze without meaning to, or you feel off without knowing why. Your control guardian is active if you have a consistent pre-shot routine that settles you, you know what to focus on and when, you recover quickly from interruptions or delays, and you can re-enter your focus quickly after a mistake. Distractions are like dandelions. They pop up fast, spread without warning, and love to grow in messy minds. But your control guardian, that's your gardener. It clears space, sets structure, and brings order to the mental jungle. Here's how to train it. 1. Build a pre-shot routine. I told you you'd hear about this a lot in this podcast. A strong pre-shot routine is like a launch sequence. It ensures you're mentally and physically prepared before every throw. Don't overcomplicate it. It could be as simple as step to the Aki, set your stance, deep breath, cue word, and throw. This power isn't in the individual steps, it's in the consistency. You're giving your brain a reliable pattern to drop into, no matter what's happening around you. And with enough repetition, your body begins to associate the sequence with calm, focus, and execution. It becomes a mental on ramp to the zone. When the world gets loud, your routine keeps you grounded. 2. Use visual anchors. Your eyes lead your attention, and your attention leads your performance. Pick a small, fixed point to focus on before you throw. It could be the top of the chalkboard, the triple 20 on the next board, or the back of the chalker shirt. Use that anchor as a visual home base to keep your mind from wandering. Train your visual discipline. In chaotic environments, scattered focus equals scattered darts, but a steady gaze helps keep your brain engaged with the task at hand. 3. Deploy a cue word. A cue word is a short, powerful phrase that tells your brain what to prioritize. It can be mechanical, smooth, follow through, emotional, trust, calm, or directive, same again, hit it. What matters is that it's personal. You picked it, practiced, you've actually used it while throwing, and said with intention. You mean it and believe it. Repeat it mentally before each throw, or even out loud during training. Over time, your brain will begin to associate that word with a specific state, making it easier to enter that state under pressure. It's like a mental button. Press it and execute. 4. Recover from distractions with breath. If you catch yourself mentally drifting, thinking about the crowd, your last miss, or what you'll eat after the match, don't panic. Just breathe. One deep, deliberate breath is often enough to reset your entire nervous system. Inhale slowly, hold for a moment, then exhale fully. Pair it with your cue word or a short mantra like reset, refocus. The breath brings you back to the moment. It tells your body we're not in danger, we're just throwing a dart. Use it as your mental anchor when things get chaotic. And 5. Practice with noise. You can't always control your environment, but you can train in one that's unpredictable. Try adding distractions to your practice, like playing crowd noises or pub ambience while you practice. You can find pub white noise on YouTube. Ask a friend to talk or pace near you while you throw. Or train in unfamiliar or noisy venues. The goal isn't to simulate stress so much as it is to strengthen your control guardian under pressure. The more chaos you can function in during practice, the easier it is to focus when it really counts. Because if your focus only works in silence, it won't survive Saturday night at the Legion. Here's an interesting side note about using pub white noise during practice. It might actually help you find your best focus. In sports psychology, visualization is a powerful performance tool, and that includes more than just mental pictures. Sound can be a huge part of it. When you practice with ambient noise, like crowd chatter, background music, or the clink of glasses, you're creating a more realistic match environment. That can wake up your competitive instincts and make it easier to lock in when it really counts. The more your practice environment resembles your playing environment, the smoother you'll be able to transition between the two. Distractions don't care how talented you are. They'll still pull your focus at the worst possible moment. That's their job. But when you train your control guardian, you stop reacting to the environment and start commanding your attention. And you stop getting dragged by your thoughts and start steering them where they need to go. You build a little mental bubble around yourself, one that says, I'm here, I'm ready, and nothing gets in. So next time your mind wanders, don't panic. Just bring it back. Back to the breath, back to the board, and back to your throw. And let the gremlins scream all they want. They're outside your bubble now. Pairing 9. Stress and enjoyment. When the game feels like a chore, you're playing it wrong. You ever walk into a tournament and immediately feel your stomach tighten like you just got called into the principal's office? That creeping tension, the sweaty palms, the sudden inability to remember how to stand. Okay, maybe that's the spiced rum, but the rest of it, that's stress. The gremlin that turns something you love into something that feels like work, or worse, like punishment. This gremlin guardian pairing is all about pressure versus play, stress versus enjoyment. Stress is the sense that something is at stake, that this match, this leg, this throw somehow determines your worth as a player, a person, or a functioning adult. And look, a little stress isn't the problem. That's arousal, and that can help. The problem is when stress crosses the line into distress, when the pressure builds so high that your focus collapses, your body tightens, and your mind enters panic prep mode. You felt it. The arm that suddenly won't relax, the dart that feels like a brick, the voice in your head screaming, you have to hit this. Stress makes you outcome obsessed. It rips you out of the moment and into a world of what ifs. And when you're chasing outcomes instead of engaging in the process, the game stops being a game. It becomes work. Now, let's reintroduce you to a feeling you probably had the first time you ever picked up a dart: enjoyment. Enjoyment isn't about goofing off or not caring. It's not the opposite of being serious. It's the prerequisite for being fully present. When you enjoy something, you engage with it more deeply. You're not chasing outcomes, you're immersed in the activity itself. That's the birthplace of flow. That's where the zone lives. Enjoyment restores rhythm, loosens the grip, and expands focus. It brings back the creativity, the freedom, and dare I say it, the fun of darts. It's what makes darts feel like darts again instead of a midlife crisis in real time. This pairing is closely tied to flow theory. Flow, or being in the zone, happens when skill and challenge are in balance. Too little challenge and you're bored. Too much pressure and you're anxious. But when you hit that sweet spot, you lose track of time, self-consciousness disappears, and your performance flows. Enjoyment is the doorway to flow. Stress is the bouncer that keeps you locked out. And here's the kicker. Players who enjoy competing tend to perform better under pressure because their nervous system interprets arousal as excitement instead of danger. If you want to play your best under pressure, you need to learn to enjoy that pressure. It should excite you. All right, so now you know how stress hijacks your performance and how enjoyment can bring it back to life. But how can you tell which side is currently winning in your DartBrain? Your stress gremlin may be running the show if you feel anxious before the match even starts, you obsess over who's watching or what's at stake, you tighten up on easy shots you normally make, or you leave tournaments feeling drained, not motivated. Your enjoyment guardian is present if you feel excited to play, even under pressure. You laugh, smile, or joke between matches. You stay focused on the process, not just results. And you leave the match feeling engaged, even if you lost. Recognizing stress is step one. But what really matters is how you respond to it. Because the moment you stop trying to eliminate pressure and instead start learning how to play with it, you begin to unlock your enjoyment guardian. Here are a few ways to shift gears and turn pressure back into play. 1. Reframe pressure as a privilege. You're not nervous because you're weak. You're nervous because you care. That means you're playing in a space that matters to you, and that's not something to avoid. It's something to honor. The physical sensation of stress and excitement, racing heart, shallow breath, elevated focus, are nearly identical. Your body doesn't know the difference. Your brain makes the call. So instead of thinking, oh no, I'm nervous, try, okay, this means I'm alive, alert, and ready. If you're fatigued from a long weekend of darts, this is the energy you need to perform your best. Thank the dart gods it showed up exactly when you need it. You're not broken, you're activated. And when you frame it that way, the pressure becomes a signal to lean in, not pull back. Because pressure isn't the enemy, it's proof that this moment was worth showing up for. 2. Create rituals that anchor joy. Joy doesn't always show up on its own. Sometimes you have to invite it to the game. That's where pre-game rituals come in. Whether it's a warm-up playlist that makes you feel like a champion, a favorite snack that puts you in your comfort zone, or even your lucky underwear that you haven't changed since Friday when you won the blind draw. These little cues anchor your mind in positivity. They remind you that you're here to play, not to suffer. The best rituals tap into the emotional memory of why you love this game in the first place. They're not about performance, they're about state. Rituals create consistency, and consistency creates calm. So build yours intentionally. Make joy part of your prep routine, not just a bonus when things happen to go well. 3. Play for play's sake. Every once in a while, take the scoreboard out of the equation. Just play. Play a game of loops. Set up a ridiculous challenge leg. Play cricket with bizarre house rules. Anything that gets you back into a playful state where the outcome doesn't matter and the point is simply the process. When you train joy into your game, it becomes part of your competitive muscle memory. You build a neurological association between playing and feeling good, not playing and dreading mistakes. And that shift makes a huge difference when the pressure is on. Serious players know when to get serious, but they also know how to enjoy the process. Play like someone who loves to play, and watch what happens when that feeling follows you all the way to the main stage. 4. Laugh it off, and sometimes literally. Laughter is one of the fastest ways to diffuse pressure. It interrupts stress, resets the nervous system, and reminds you you're human, and that's allowed. So, if you shank a dart or completely forget which double you're supposed to hit, smirk, shrug, make a joke. There's no need to beat yourself up over a bad throw when you can just be okay with it and continue on. The point isn't to avoid mistakes, it's to survive them without spiraling. This isn't brain surgery. It's throwing pointy things at a corkboard while someone shouts out numbers. So lighten up, laugh. Not because you don't care, but because laughter keeps you from caring so much that your game implodes. Stress wants you to believe that darts is life or death. Enjoyment reminds you that it's just life, and it's supposed to be lived. When you stop enjoying the game, your focus collapses, your body tightens, your gremlins feast. But when you play with joy, with presence, with just a hint of mischief, that's when your guardians rally. That's when your dart flies true. That's when the game becomes what it was always meant to be, a place where effort meets art and pressure turns into play. So the next time you feel the pressure building, try this. Stand up straight, smile, and then throw. Pairing 10, fatigue versus energy. You can't throw like a zombie and expect to score like a sniper. Let's be honest, nobody's scared of tired darts players. You've seen it, the slouchy stance, the half-hearted follow-through, the dead fish grip on the dart. They're at the hockey, but spiritually, they're horizontal on a couch watching reruns of The Real Housewives in their underpants. Welcome to the Gremlin Guardian pairing, fatigue versus energy. This one's a sleeper hit, literally, because while it might not be as flashy as confidence or as dramatic as emotions, energy management is one of the most overlooked and most critical parts of your mental game. Fatigue is sneaky. It doesn't just show up when you haven't slept. It creeps in when you're overworked, under-recovered, poorly nourished, or mentally drained from stress, overthinking, or burnout. Fatigue doesn't shout. It saps. It steals sharpness. It makes everything slower, your thoughts, your reaction time, your tempo, and it tricks you into thinking, I'm just off today. But you're not off. You're just empty. And here's the worst part. When you're fatigued, you don't always feel tired. You just feel flat, foggy, maybe even weirdly emotional. That's your system saying, hey boss, we're running on fumes here. Fatigue loves late-night matches, junk food tournaments, long drives with bad coffee, and skipped routines. It's a gremlin with a clipboard and a highlighter, marking every missed opportunity to recover. Now, let's meet your guardian, energy. But not the caffeine-jacked Red Bull chugging hype monster kind of energy. This isn't about buzzing. It's about being ready. Energy is alertness, presence, the feeling of being switched on, mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's having enough in the tank to make good decisions, repeat smooth mechanics, and stay locked in for every throw. Energy is your guardian of sustainability. Without it, you may start strong, but you won't finish strong. And in darts, where matches can be long, venues chaotic, and focus a fragile thing, managing your energy is a competitive advantage. In sports psychology, central fatigue is a big deal. It refers to fatigue not in your muscles, but in your brain and nervous system. Research shows that mental fatigue significantly impairs performance in precision-based tasks, even when physical energy is unchanged. In other words, if your brain is tired, your throw will be sloppy, even if your body feels fine. Mental fatigue reduces motivation, narrows attention, and increases error rates. It also amplifies the effect of stress, frustration, and, you guessed it, all your other gremlins. On the flip side, properly managed energy through rest, nutrition, rhythm, and routine helps you maintain focus, bounce back from misses, and enter that elusive zone of smooth, automatic play. So how do you know whether your energy guardian is standing tall or if your fatigue gremlin has been quietly draining the batteries? Your fatigue gremlin might be in charge if you slump at the hockey, you lose focus midway through matches, your routine shortens or disappears as the night goes on, or you start slow, coast on autopilot, and emotionally flatline after mistakes. Your energy guardian is working if you feel steady and alert throughout matches. Your pre-shot routine stays consistent from first dart to last. You adjust your pacing or environment to stay fresh, and you recover quickly between legs or matches, mentally or physically. Let's plug your brain back in. If you've recognized that fatigue is sneaking into your game, whether it's physical sluggishness, mental fog, or just the weird why am I even here vibe, don't panic. The good news is, energy is one of the most trainable guardians you've got. It's not just about sleeping more. It's about managing your resources like a pro. Although, let's be clear, getting enough sleep is your most important energy regulator, which we're about to discuss. Here are a few ways to start rebuilding your energy and keeping that fatigue gremlin in check. 1. Sleep like you mean it. Humans need 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. That's not a luxury, it's your performance foundation. And recent research shows that getting less sleep than your body needs is linked to early onset dementia and a shorter lifespan. I mean, think about it from an evolutionary perspective. Why would humans evolve to need so much sleep? It's a full third of our day. And it's extremely dangerous. Imagine you're an early hunter-gatherer and there's all kinds of things out there trying to eat you. How could you calmly lay down for 8 hours, completely vulnerable? So sleep must be pretty damn important to our bodies if we never evolved to need less of it. Anyways, the point is, you can't outfocus, outbreath, or outthrow exhaustion. Sleep matters to your dart game. Of course, if you've ever played a weekend tournament in Canada, you know that's not always realistic. A deep Friday night run means a short turnaround, Saturday night finals even shorter, by Sunday you're running on fumes and vending machine coffee. That's when energy management becomes everything. Personally, I treat sleep like it's sacred. Ask anyone who's traveled with me. I'll skip food, warm-up darts, and social time just to sneak in extra rest. I've napped under tables, in cars, and once between 2 stacks of banquet chairs in the back room at the West Kildonan Legion in Winnipeg. You don't have to love sleep as much as I do, but trust me, your focus does. Have no shame in your nap game. 2. Build a match day or tournament routine. There are several factors that influence your energy, so have a plan for all of them when you know it's time to play. Obviously, get enough sleep before you compete if you can, but this also includes food, hydration, how long you plan to warm up, quiet time, and rest breaks. You might be a person who hits the board too hard between rounds when you're struggling, or maybe you're a person who gets too social when they're playing well and feel comfortable. These things matter, and knowing what keeps your fuel tank topped up will only help your game. Don't wing it. Fatigue loves chaos. Energy loves rhythm. 3. Fuel wisely. Avoid sugar crashes and dehydration. And sorry, Shane, 4 pints of Guinness still doesn't count as hydration, no matter how passionately you defend it. Darts venues aren't exactly known for their Michelin star food options. If you're lucky, there's a vending machine and a hot dog that's been rotating since 1997. So come prepared. Pack your own energy-friendly snacks. Think nuts, fruit, cheese sticks, electrolyte drinks, or whatever keeps you sharp without weighing you down or twisting your gut into a stress pretzel. A good throw starts with a good fuel source. 4. Energy microbursts. Feeling off? Check your body. Are you slouching? Breathing shallow? Eyes glazing over? That's your cue to reset. Straighten up, take a deep breath, soften your focus, reboot the body, and the mind will follow. Between matches, don't just melt into a chair and become part of the venue decor. Move, stretch, step outside, take a brisk 5-minute walk, shake the fatigue out of your limbs, and reawaken your focus. Sitting still too long is like letting your brain slow cook in low-grade exhaustion. Now, that doesn't mean you can't sit. I do it all the time, sometimes even mid-match if the setup allows it. But the key is intentionality. Sit when you need to recover, move when you need activation. You're managing your energy, not slipping into a stupor like a drywaller that just worked a 16-hour shift. Be deliberate. Your body knows the difference between rest and collapse. 5. Use enjoyment to boost energy. I'm going to keep this brief because we've already talked about enjoyment and its power to keep your energy up and focus locked in. Nothing drains you faster than anger, frustration, and sulking. On the flip side, enjoying the game gives you energy. If you can smile, laugh, or just appreciate being at the hockey or spending time with friends, your focus will last longer. After all, if you're not here to enjoy it, why are you here? You can't throw sharp if you feel dull. Fatigue doesn't just cost you points, it drains your presence. And in a game where the smallest lapse can change a leg, presence is power. So take your energy seriously. Guard it like a pro. Because when you show up rested, ready, and regulated, that's when the real player walks in. And your gremlins, they hate that. All right, let's hit that recap bullseye. Today we met the final 5 Gremlin Guardian pairings, the mental battlegrounds where your habits, attention, and energy get won or lost. Neglect versus commitment. You don't become a better player by accident. Commitment shows up even when you don't feel like it, especially then. Adversity versus resilience. Setbacks are guaranteed. Resilience is the decision to stand up, reset, and throw the next dart with purpose as if you're capable of making the comeback. Distractions versus distraction controls. Your attention is a currency. Gremlins want to spend it everywhere. Your distraction controls want to spend it where it counts. Stress versus enjoyment. Pressure is part of the game. Your guardian reminds you you're here because this is supposed to be fun. And fatigue versus energy. You can't throw well if your battery's dead. Energy management isn't a luxury, it's a performance tool. These 5 pairs round out your DartBrain, a complete map of the mental game from the loud emotional meltdowns to the quiet self-neglect that flies under the radar. And like last time, you don't need to fix everything at once. Just ask yourself, which gremlin is loudest in my game right now? That's your starting point. That's your training focus. Because the more you recognize your gremlins, the faster you can call up your guardians. And the better you get at that, the more often you play in the zone. In the next episode, we're going to take some time to talk about practice. Not so much about practice routines, but how practice can be made more purposeful, more deliberate, and more helpful. One of the most common questions I've been asked since I started the DartBrain podcast is, how do I play like I play in my basement when I come to the tournament? Or in other words, how do I play in a tournament like I do in practice? It's a crucial question, and we'll try to answer it in the next episode. So until then, take a breath, trust your throw, and for the love of tungsten, don't let the monkey drive the bus. This has been DartBrain. I'm Clint Clarkson. Until next time, stay focused, throw with purpose, and train your DartBrain.